Hey everyone, JJ here. Just want to welcome everyone to the channel. This is my first installment of the JJ Babbles section. So just as an idea, these are, just my takes on albums, my favorite drummers, gear, just anything that's kind of on my mind or what I've been chatting with friends about and I thought would maybe make for an interesting video. So the first one involves one of my drum heroes. Might not seem obvious from perhaps some of the content that's already on my channel, but Smashing Pumpkins have been a massive influence on me since probably '93 when I first started hearing them. The Siamese Dream album is where I really discovered them from the radio and things like that. And obviously keyed in on the music, but the real thing that I keyed in on was Jimmy Chamberlain. Now, the influence that Jimmy's had on me is across the board. It was the first time when I heard those albums, it was the first time I'd really heard ghost notes, drags, roughs, like these very drumistic ideas. I was coming more from as a kid listening to a lot of country music and, kind of straight ahead rock and roll. I had started to get into heavy metal at that time and was learning that stuff, but at the same time, a lot of that drumming, it had double bass and it was fast, but it didn't have complexity in the drumming in the same way that I heard with the Smashing Pumpkins. And so that had an immense impact on me as a young drummer. And without having video to really study at the time of what he was doing, I had to interpret these things just by listening over and over and over to death. Probably drove my parents nuts listening to that stuff, but trying to pick up the intricacies of his playing, the nuance, and all of those things. And as time went on, Jimmy came and went from the Pumpkins numerous times. I was always a fan of the band, but when he wasn't there, it wasn't the same band. It wasn't close. And part of the reason I hold Jimmy in such high regard is because he is one of those drummers that is signature to his band. And it's not the same without him. John Bonham was like that. Many drummers. Just without them, Phil Rudd and AC/DC. Without him being in that band, it's not the same band. And that's the same can be said of Jimmy. And so as he's come and gone from the band, I've had mixed feelings with the records that don't feature him. Great records nonetheless, but musically it didn't hold a candle to the albums that he was involved in. And so when he returned to the band with the album Zeitgeist was in 2007, I believe, and that was kind of his big return for me and getting back in the band, and to hear that record and the return to form for the Pumpkins it was astounding to me. It boggles my mind that record isn't more revered than it is, because it's a classic Pumpkins record the entire way through, and some of the grooves that are on that and some of the patterns and just him, Jimmy, I'm referring to just him. He's just an incredible addition, a musical addition to that band. He's not a drummer per se. He's a musical element of the band that just can't be denied. So I'm on this train of thought with Jimmy because I've just recently, a friend of mine informed me, because I had no idea, that Smashing Pumpkins had a new album coming out. And I was very excited and hopeful. I've listened to the previous couple records they've put out, and the band's been, back with Jimmy, but it's something about the past, the double album, I can't recall the name, but something about that record just didn't resonate with me. I don't know what it was. So I was a little hesitant with the new album. And so I finally had a long car ride, and I could delve into the whole record uninterrupted, and it blew me away. I've listened to it 20 times since then, in its entirety, not one song, but just front to back. It feels like it was intended to be listened to that way, which is cool. It's cool to see a return to form for the Pumpkins. I had read some articles talking about where, Corgan, they came back and jammed the songs out in the old way, and Corgan obviously has heavy metal influences with Black Sabbath and some other bands, and to see them kind of incorporate those things. The first listen, I was a little put off, got the context of what they were doing, and then I realized, wow, this is a classic Pumpkins record. The only thing I can even say about it that I'm not a fan of is the production is very modern, and that's fine. I've got no qualms with that, but I feel like some of that signature, there's a large signature that Jimmy has with his drum sound, and with a modern production element to those drums, it took a little bit of that sound and that signature away. That was my initial thought, but once I listened and heard his playing and what he was introducing to the songs, it's very secondary thought at this point. The record blew me away. I can't emphasize enough how much influence Jimmy's had on me as a young musician, even as an older musician, which I currently am. All of my left hand work, playing cymbals with my left hand, melodic phrasing, trying to incorporate that into some of the original music I was doing, song building, dynamics. There's nobody better at dynamics, in my opinion, than Jimmy, and he gets to express that in that band, and it's a perfect marriage of a drummer and a band leader coming together as one, and coalescing and becoming a unit. And it's a bunch of intangibles that all come together, to make this thing. And there's a few relationships in music that have that. I'd say like a James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich. There's other ones too. I'm blanking, but you get the gist. So, but yeah, I wanted to come on here and talk about Jimmy a little bit, and how impressed I am with the new album. And just overall, if you've never listened to Jimmy's drumming, or the Smashing Pumpkins, outside of the hits, everyone knows the hits, but if you take a real deep dive into their catalog, songs like Geek USA or An Ode to No One, or there's the United States. I can't think of the song title, but it's on the Zeitgeist record, and it's this 7-minute long song, and apparently it's one take, and it's incredible. And he's a musician that I revere highly. I strive to be as good as him, and yeah, I encourage anyone to check out Jimmy Chamberlain, check out the Pumpkins. You can check out any of his projects as well. He's got side projects where, it's getting into the realm of jazz, and it's away from rock and roll. And I'm not a huge jazz fan. I barely name any jazz songs or play any jazz whatsoever, but it was always cool to have that bridge to cross with Jimmy's playing, where you could come and check out a rock band, but hear these jazz things happening, and then it's a gateway into that music for people, because jazz can be a fairly daunting genre of music for a lot of people to get into. It can be hard to listen to, hard to follow, but once you get into it, there's a world of discovery in that. So, but yeah, this is the first installment of these Babbles sections. So, point is, check out Jimmy, check out Smashing Pumpkins, check out the new album. I think you'll dig it. Cheers.